Okay, so this is the guideline you can download from DOSH website, which and where the organizer will share with you later on. Okay, for the purpose of this guideline, first is to promote the safe management of ammonia refrigeration system at the workplace. Secondly is to provide information to employers and employees to reduce and manage risk, especially with respect to the ammonia refrigerant. And this also will explain the duty of all the stakeholders, owners, designers, manufacturers, suppliers, and etc. And you can download this from our department website, www.dosh.gov.my. Okay. This guideline, the main reason is to have this guideline because lot of cases ammonia release accident happen in Malaysia, contributed by the industry of ice making factory. This is a small medium enterprise, and the owner, most of the case involved, most of the owner not aware with the law in Malaysia, especially that already spelled out in the Occupational Safety and Health Act, OSHA, and the Factory and Machinery Act, FMA. So actually the law is already there. The reason why we have this guideline is to highlight what the owner of refrigeration system need to look into from the OSHA and the FMA, and we highlight in these guidelines. Okay, so our focus is for the small medium enterprise and the especially for the ice making industries, artificial ice making industries. So but if this is applicable to your workplace, you might look into the elements of the guideline also. Okay, the application and the scope for this guideline is for the workplace that utilize ammonia as a refrigerant in their refrigeration system, and the workplace with ice production, cold storage, food processing, maybe a building service which use the ammonia as the medium. And this cover for the new and also the existing installation of the refrigeration system, whether it's permanent or for the temporary use. Okay. First of all, this guideline highlights the requirement, the mandatory requirement under the Factory and Machinery Act, which the owner need to comply if they have especially certificated machinery, then they have to comply with the FMA Act. And for the workplace, the OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Act, come into place to ensure that the owner of the workplace who create the risk able to manage the risk to protect their workers from any accident arising from their undertaking. Other than these two main acts, there's a regulations that describe more details on each provision of the acts for the FMA and OSHA 1994. Just for your information, this FMA will be no longer will be enforced, and it will be terminated. And the new OSHA will cover and I think most of the provision which currently enforced under FMA. And I think the first reading of the bill already go to the parliament for the first reading, and I don't know, in the future Factory and Machinery Act will not be longer will be enforced by the DOSH. It will be maybe covered by the new OSHA. Okay, that's just for the information. Okay, so I cannot go into the details for each of the FMA, but if you want a copy of the ad, you can download from the website I share with you just now. For both ad, you can download from there. So in this guideline, it highlights a few provision that are related to say handling of the refrigeration system. For example, the section 19 related to certificate of fitness for certificated machinery. This is the CF for the machinery. The section 21, duties of the occupier, which is the owner of the workplace. Section 22, provision relating to the health. There's a detail about anything related to health, including the ventilation, the workspace. I think if you read through, it also may cover the COVID-19 safe health issues. Section 25, provision relating to welfare. And then there's part 2, safety, health, and welfare. Part 5 cover the section 34 to 36 for the notification of occupation of factory, registration, and the use of machinery. Okay, that's what's covered under the FMA. So for the section 19, for those who not familiar with FMA, there's machineries that require the certificate of fitness before you can operate. Just like our car that need road tag to use legally on the public road, these machineries require a valid certificate of fitness, and it required a renewal every 15 months. For example, machineries like tower cranes, mobile cranes, boilers, pressure vessel, escalator, elevator. If you notice, when you get into the lift car, you see there's a like a certificate. There's the certificate of fitness for that lift. It must be renewed every 15 months. And then for still in the legislation, for OSHA 1994, first, the most important thing that we highlight in the guideline is the section 15, the general duties of employer and self-employed person to their employees. It states out the statutory provision that you must ensure the safety and health of your workers at your workplace. And then section 20 with regards to the manufacturers for the plant used at work, like the plant for the ammonia refrigeration system. When you own that system, you must ensure the manufacturer must ensure that the system is safe to be used. And for section 21 of the OSHA, this is a duty for manufacturers with regard to the substance for the use at work. For our case is the ammonia. The supplier of ammonia must ensure that their products can be used safely at the work. And then apart from both ads, there's a regulation supporting the both ads. Under the OSHA, there is occupational safety and health control of industrial major accident hazard, known as CIMA Regulation 1996. This especially for chemical plants and major hazard installations. And then the use and standard of exposure of chemical hazardous to health use, regulation 2000. Of course, ammonia is the one of the hazardous chemical to health. And then for the suppliers, they need to comply with the classification, labeling, and safety data sheet of hazardous chemical, or known as CLAS, regulation 2030. And there's a new regulation regarding the noise at the workplace. Actually, it's not a new, but there's a new regulation. Before this, it is enforced under the Factory and Machineries Act. Now there's noise exposure is under the Occupational Safety and Health Regulation 2019. And for the certificate of fitness, there's the regulation described in details since 1917 for the use of certificated machinery. The requirement to be renewed every 15 months is spelled out in this regulation. And then we have the safety health welfare under the FMA, and the steam boiler and fire pressure vessel 1970 also covered under FMA. And there's another one under the OSHA is the notification of accident, dangerous occurrence, occupational poisoning, and occupational disease, or known as the NEDEPOD. This is when there's an accident, what the employer needs to do to report the accident and not to disturb the accident area, and anything related to reporting of accident to the authority will cover under this regulation. This is some of the ammonia application in the industry. For the chemicals industry, pharmaceuticals, fertilizers, food, and refrigeration. This is some of the application, but in the guideline, there's more we highlight in that. So we will look from 2020 all the way back to 2015. There's more case, but there's the data we gathered for our before we start this guideline. So in 2020, there's one case reported in Penang. This involved ice making factory. No injuries was reported from this case because it was realized earlier. And in Malacca, there's one case also involved ice making factory. This one I will share in detail with you later on. And one in Kedah. This is not ice making factory, but I think it's an electronic or semiconductor company. This is due to the release of ammonia at the tank house, but it spread into the production house due to, I think this is due to facility design of the factory. Then in 2019, there's one case in Kajang. This one public exposed to the ammonia while he is shopping adjacent to the factory. You need to know sometimes this ammonia ice making factory is just a shop lot punya buildings. It's not a proper factory punya building. And he was stable after got treatment from the hospital. And in 2019, there's one case. I will share in detail with you this case. Happened from a poultry processing factory. 26 workers have experienced breathing difficulty, while the nearby student, about 120 students of nearby school, were evacuated. Luckily, no student was affected. Back in 2018, there's a 3 reporting case. Actually, 2, but for the Shah Alam, it's the same location, same facility. The first on the 30th August, 2 workers dead. This one when I was in Selangor State Office, I involved in the case, and 18 workers was injured due to breathing difficulties. All of them is the foreign workers from India. One case happened in Perlis. This is also from ice making factory. Two was hospitalized. And for the third case on 2019 is the same facility. 3 days after the cases, there's a release of ammonia to the school nearby of the factory, and this affected 4 students from the school. In 2017, there are 3 reporting cases. The first one involved the also ice making factory. 3 people brought to the hospital. One happened in Sabah. One worker fainted, and the other one also ice making factory, where 3 workers seriously affected and sent to the hospital. And in 2015, in 2016, there was no reported case. And in 2015, 2 cases. One also ice making factories, which involved the public. 50 people from 4 families was evacuated, and one in Selayang also involved this ice making factory. This is the reason why we focus on the ice making factory. We see that most of the cases occurred from this premise. Okay, so this is our plan to improve the some of the questions from the participant. So at the early stage since 2019, we have developed a quick guide to handle the ammonia leak. This is because of the alarming situation. We publish a guideline first, and then we have a series of workshops with the ice making factory nationally. There's a lot of workshop series. We call all the ice making factories to involve with the workshop to get their input. And we also have research with the UPM to study the issues. And then we focus our enforcement on the workplace that using ammonia as the refrigeration system. This is not only for the ice making factory, but also other factory that use the ammonia. And then we have issued the DOS instruction letter to the respective industry. I think this is back in 2019. And from that year, we developed the guideline, this guideline. So I was involved with this committee to draft the guideline because I involved with many cases involved the accident. So my input has been put forth in this guideline. Also, I shared some case study in the guidelines. And we have the awareness program before the completion of these guidelines. And we also create a profile for ammonia refrigeration system. This we gather the data, the location, the owner, what is their total amount of ammonia they have. We develop a database for the ammonia owner. And then we develop a checklist to ensure that if they follow this checklist, they will comply to the law, and most importantly, to prevent the accidents. And currently, we are monitoring the compliance. Of course, due to this MCO, we cannot do much, and some of the factory, they are essential. And in the future, I don't know, maybe there is a more stringent requirement, but we will look into the compliance of the owners to reduce the number of accidents. And if there is a requirement to prosecute the owner, then we will do so, especially those involve the fatality cases. Okay, in this guideline, we highlight the stakeholders' duties and responsibilities, especially the designer, manufacturer, installer, owner, and also the ammonia supplier. Okay, for the designer and the manufacturer, manufacturer. First, for the refrigeration system, they must ensure they comply with our relevant legislation, and it must be construct and safely designed. And for the refrigeration system, some of the machinery required design approval by DOS. We also do design approval, and the setup of operation system must be safe with a proper manual provided, and they need to resolve any technical issues arising from the installation of this system. And of course, to ensure the long-term stability and safe handling, they need to prepare the maintenance program. Okay, then we highlight the duty of supplier and the installer of the system. They need to test, commission, and maintain the refrigeration system. Test run of the system before they use. This is for the commissioning. And issue instruction for proper use. I mean the manual for the safe use of the system, and to maintain the refrigeration system. And for the ammonia supplier, they need to aware with the labeling and the safety data sheet to supply to their client. They need to develop SOP and risk assessment, especially during the transfer and the filling of ammonia to their client. And they need to obtain the permit to work, PTW, from the owner before they do anything. And also provide training to the ammonia handler. This is a requirement under the regulation of OSHA. And then, of course, the owner, there's a lot of things he need to ensure their workers not affected by their refrigeration system. First, they need to have the risk assessment and also the chemical health risk assessment, CHRA. This the first thing they need to do. And then the maintenance and inspection of their system must be adequately conducted. And for the documents, they must keep and maintain, especially when there's a request from the authority. This will be helpful when they repair their system. And then for the workers, they need to provide a proper PPE. And then you need to develop the safe work procedure, emergency response plan, of course. And the information and training they must provide to their workers. And the accident reporting. Some of the cases, when we investigate, it was not reported by the owner, but it was reported in the news. Then we do the investigation because this is a requirement under the notification of accidents. Okay. Okay, then we take a look on the properties of anhydrous ammonia. First is it is 99.5% refrigeration grade. I mean, it's very good to be used as the refrigerant. And this chemical is colorless, and it can be absorbed by water. Most of the case happen when the bomba came in. They use the water blanket to dilute the ammonia. It's the faster way to reduce the amount of ammonia released to the air. And this ammonia, you will notice because you have a pungent odor, and it is dry, and the acidity, it is alkaline, and it corrodes with copper, zinc, and alloys. So most of the material used for the system is carbon steel. And its boiling point is very low, minus 33.2 34 degrees C. Okay, this is the level, ppm level, permissible exposure that ammonia will give to human. If it is between 5 to 10 ppm, normally it can be detected by the small smell at the concentration. You can detect the presence of the ammonia. And if 25 ppm, this the permissible exposure limit for the ammonia. And between 10 to 100 ppm, some people they can work with this concentration, but it depends on the human body. Some of us cannot be more than 25 ppm. Because I have one of our officers during our investigation, because he got some asthma, so he not even can bear the 25 ppm. So it depends on the people. And between 150 and 200 ppm can cause you irritation and muscle membrane and the eyes, but normally you don't collapse. But if the concentration exceed the 300 ppm, it is dangerous to life or health, IDLH. Between 500 to 700, the eyes are affected more and more quickly. You'll have some tears coming from your eyes, but the air still breathable. If it is more than 1000 ppm, it is intolerable. Your vision might be impaired, and it can cause a permanent disability to your eyes. And if it is more than 1500 ppm, can cause damage to your skin. And this, of course, you need to quickly evacuate the area. And more than 2500 ppm, this can cause a fatality. So the limit for normal human is 25 ppm for 8 hours working hours. Okay, this is the effect to your body. For the skin, you have mild irritation, can cause tissue destruction, can feel like frostbite, and corrosive action on the skin and mucous membranes. Okay, and for your lung, it can cause destruction of delicate respiratory tissue, convulsive coughing, difficult or painful breathing, and also may cause death. And for your eyes, might cause mild irritation to destruction of the eyes, which can occur. So this is the basic refrigeration system cycle. For the refrigerant, at least you have these 4 main components: the compressor, the expansion valve, evaporator, and the condenser. The evaporator will be used to transfer the heat to the product or our required temperature. And the ammonia will flow in closed cycle of the system, and from the liquid to gas interchangeable within this cycle. And the heat, that unwanted heat, will be released by this condenser to the environment. Okay, this is the typical system, single stage refrigeration system, which have the expansion valve, the evaporators, receivers, liquid separators, condenser, and compressor. So, like I said, it will be interchangeable from the vapor, low pressure vapor, will be compressed into the high pressure vapor, will circulate into the condenser, and come in as the high pressure liquid. It go through the expansion valve, and will flow through all the system for evaporators to produce the ice or to cool our food products. Okay, so in the guidelines, we also share one of the example of ice making machine. It consists of a tube ice machine. You will notice it is like a tower. This is a unfired pressure vessel which required the certificate of fitness, and most of the accident happen. We notice that the owner did not register their system. The water tank to supply the water to produce the ice. There's a water treatment, and the ammonia receiver tank, cooling tower or the condenser to release the heat, the control panel and the compressor. Okay, the ice cube will be produced by this tower and it come out into this hook and will be transferred through this conveyor, screw conveyor. Okay, we provide some we call this piping and instrument diagram, PNID. This is a simple PNID that maybe can be used by the ice making owner. At least they need to develop this one, or they need to have this one from their suppliers. This is important, especially when they need to repair or modify their system, and most importantly to maintain their system, they need to have this one. Okay, this is example of freezer tower that used to manufacture the ice for the consumer. So this tower consists of a water reservoir. There's a pump to pump up the water and coming into the tower. So during the freezing stage, it will flow through the ammonia inside the this tank, and at the defrost stage, the ammonia hot gas will be supplied to the vessel to ensure that the cube will be flowing down. Then it will be cut by this blade. It's not like this blade, but I just visualize here for your maybe just some view. This ice cube will coming down from here, then we will be cut by the blade underneath this system. Okay. So normally during our drafting stage of this guideline, we have a chance to meet the supplier. So we found out that most of the supplier of our ice making system coming from our neighbor country, Thailand, most of them. And they said how they troubleshoot the system is by looking at the quality of the ice they produce. If it is crystal clear like this, then your system is okay. But if the ice produced is not so clear, there's a white color like this, they need to check their system. Maybe the issue with their system, or there is some ammonia leak with their system. Okay. And every day they will check for the water level to ensure that the system is running okay. And for the water quality, you don't have to worry, because they have this UV disinfection, and it's controlled by our KKM, our Ministry of Health. So they need to comply with the requirement by our KKM. And for the design, all vessels shall be designed and manufactured according to the international recognized standard. or code such as the ASME, EN or BS standard. And all the join must undergo the NDT test as required by the designer of the code, depending on the design approved by or designed by the designer. All the materials used must be suitable for the ammonia refrigerant at the considered temperature and pressure to which the component shall be subject to. So this is some of the international standard can be used as a reference to design the refrigeration system of ammonia, the IIAR, ASME or the ASHRAE. This is most some of the popular standard. So for the requirement of certificate of fitness for the UPV, because the tower of the ice making machine is a UPV, a fire pressure vessel. So it's spelled out under the boiler UPV regulation. This is what related to the safe use of the refrigeration system. And it must be renewed every 15 months by DOSH. Okay, for the installation, the supplier must ensure that it equipped with the necessary drawing and diagram, and it must be installed under supervision of experienced person. For the startup, all the piping and the electrical equipment and installation must be properly installed. For the startup of the system, functional tests of all the safety device must be conducted before they can commission their system. And all the protection device are tested and set properly. It must be pressure test. So our committee have a chance to witness one of the setup of the system in Klang, and they do the pneumatic test for the system. It took about I think 72 hours to complete the test. And the owner and contractor should witness and verify all the tests and the inspection. And it cannot be put into operation until it has passed all the tests and inspection that's set by the designer of the system, like the pressure test, the vacuum test for the piping, or maybe the NDT test. Okay, before they charge the ammonia, they must ensure that machine room and space are safe. And they must prepare the first aid, safe equipment available at the site, and they must notify all the staff at their place that the ammonia are being used. Then for the maintenance, they must ensure periodic maintenance according to manufacturer recommendation, and this must be undertaken by the trained person. And most importantly, to have a preventive maintenance program. Okay, and if they want to change anything with their system, they must ensure the original spec of the component should be used, and they need to have sufficient information before carry out the maintenance, especially for the service provider, and the risk assessment to ensure that there is no risk of accident during the maintenance. Okay, for the anything related to modification and repair of the UPV of the vessel of the refrigerant, they need to notify and get the approval from DOSH before they do any modification or repair. and they must ensure that it is the component is original, and they provide the adequate safety device after the modification, the suitability of the component they use, and most importantly, the integrity of the system after their repair works is complete. So for the training, this is what we highlight. You can see in details the training matrix we provide in the guideline of table 3. The practical training for the workers, the system maintenance for the supplier, the act and the regulation, what they need to know, and the occupational safety and health management. This is for the owner, the plant supervisor, and also the workers. The emergency response plan, the important element to be included is the evacuation, notification, local emergency service, communication the system, especially during the release of ammonia. And this is important. You need to have the wind speed and the direction, especially during the evacuation, and also the breathing apparatus. So we provide in details in the guidelines, and some example maybe can be used as a reference to develop your own emergency response plan in the guidelines. So this is the relevant records that you need to have to keep and maintain the system approved document, like the design approval from DOSH, the registration of factory, inspection and maintenance agreement, because the refrigeration system do not require any FIK, like how we maintain the elevator. So you need to have agreement to ensure your system are maintained. The legal register, anything that relate to authority with respect to the refrigeration system, maintenance and operation record, CF, training record, support procedure, modification and repair works, document related to ERP, PNID. I think it's the most importantly, especially when there is a release of ammonia, then you need to know what is the release. This is the most important reference. And then the JKKP file, record of permit system, manufacturer manual, PPE, risk assessment, and anything related to CIMAH like DOSO, demonstration of safe operation for those non-major hazard installation, and last but not least the CHRA. And we provide with the guideline one checklist, and if the owner use the checklist, they might comply with the regulation, and most importantly, prevent the accident.